Arc Predator. And lost to my neighbor. We were trying to use it the other day, and as long as we kept fuel dumped into the top of it, it ran. So that tells me there's an issue with fuel delivery. So I want to make sure that the fuel pump is pumping, and if the fuel pump is pumping, then I want to make sure that the carb is good and clean on the inside and not gummed up. So I've got the spark plugs pulled out. It does have a dead battery, so I might have to hook something up just to do some testing. Let's see what we got. At least need it to crank over a little bit when I go to check the fuel pump. So let's see. There. Ground is there. All right. I did a service on this back in 18. He may have used this thing once or twice since then. And so it just sat up basically, and he didn't turn the fuel shut-off off. So that means fuel was sitting in the carb all this time. So I've got my suspicions that the carb is just gummed up or something. Alright. There's 4 screws at the top of this. I believe one's an 8. Yep. So one's an 8 mil, or 2 of them are 8 mil, and then 2 of them are 10 mil. And that should allow you to pull that filter cover housing off. There we go. Doesn't look like there's any fuel in this fuel filter. The way it looks anyway. Yeah, that's bone dry. That's messed up. Never seen a fuel filter like this before. It's a Honda motor that's in here. Honda motors are great. But this fuel filter, I do believe, be able to tell more when I get it off. But it might have 2 separate or 2 different size ends. Yeah. Why? Why does a fuel filter have to have 2 different sizes? Oh boy. So that's a special filter that I gotta go find that I do not have here. All right. You know what? The weird thing is this fuel line, usually a fuel filter a fuel pump would be mounted to the side somewhere. But I don't see a fuel pump anywhere, and I know it's going to have one because the fuel tank is down here and the carb is all the way up here, so it has to have something to pump it. And the messed up part of it is the side cover, the top cover, and the other side are all one entire piece. And if a fuel pump is back in here somewhere, the fuel hose, yeah, the fuel hose goes back through here, back behind here. So it looks like there's fuel in there. It's a metal tank, which I don't care much for those anymore. Especially with all the ethanols in the fuel nowadays. The ethanol draws moisture, so if there's any room in your fuel tank, it'll draw that moisture and fill that void. So if you have a vehicle that sits a lot, your best bet is to fill the tank all the way up and put a treatment in it. All right, I'll bring you back. I gotta get some things hooked up to get this thing to crank over. All right, I had to pull the cover off so I can get down in here and try to figure out why we're not pumping fuel. Looks like he's got some mice. All right. That fuel line goes to the fuel tank. Huh. As far as I know, that down there is the fuel sending unit. And I don't see one on this motor anywhere that really stands out. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. There's your fuel pump right there. Right there. That's it. Tucked it way into here. All crazy like. So this hose here goes around the solenoid, wraps all around the solenoid, and barely see it right down in there. And for some reason, I guess that's a spot for a ground. And it looked like the wire was on it at one time because there was a scratch mark on it. I need to figure out where that wire is, I guess. So I need to hook this back up and disconnect this side of the fuel pump to see if this fuel pump is working or not. All right, I think I figured it out. This is just an odd place to put a fuel pump, hide it back in there behind all this mess. In order to get to that, I'm going to need to pull the front cover off, which is just 2 more bolts. Get that front cover pulled off, this cover here. And then once I get to that, I can take this cover off here, and then I can take this piece off here, which will give me access to that fuel pump if it ends up being bad. All right, so I got the front cover pulled off. And I started just like pumping fuel through the system, and through this hose here, it would come out to the bottom here, and I'd let it drain into here. And fix all that junk in there. So I did pull the carb off. I got it sitting in the shed, so I'm gonna tear it down, see what it looks like inside. Hopefully it's not too bad. And we'll try to see if I can get that fuel out of there the best I can and start off with fresh. But with that being a metal tank, and that looks like rust to me inside that jug there. It might have some issues for a little while. But the fuel also smells really strong, rank type of smell also, so. All right, I got the carburetor out of the Honda on the welder. And we're gonna open it up, see how cruddy it is on the inside. Hopefully it's not too bad. I'm gonna get this solenoid off of here so I'm not dragging a wire around every time I want to move the carb. A little bit of stuff on the end of this. Ooh, that might be the only problem. Is the fuel solenoid itself. Let's figure out. That might be the only problem. I will still open up the carb and just take a look inside, but that needle should move. And it's not moving at all. This is just a coil, so ground the here and the hot here, this should pull in. And I have a feeling that it's not going to. All I do is just use my little trickle charger to do this kind of stuff with. It's only 3 amps. 12 volts, so it does everything I need it to do for this. Put your ground on the housing. You're hot on the wire. I got a little bit of arcing, but nothing's happening. Yeah. Even my charger's barely doing anything. Yep. That might be our only problem. Oop, wrong one. Lights out, everybody. Sometimes you can get these burnt loose and freed up, like this one here is starting to, and so I might let it soak. And we'll see what happens. There we go. There we go. Loosened up pretty good. Still a little gummy. But maybe some solvent can loosen that up. This stuff here seems to be pretty good stuff. I think with this one here, I think our best bet is to get a new one. If I had a plate made up, you drop an O-ring in there and put a plate on it, install the carb and see what happens. If it fires up, I know for sure that was the only thing wrong with it. But while we got it off right here, it only makes sense to at least open it up and take a look on the inside. tell you what, it's a lot better looking inside than I thought it would be. I thought that would just be completely trashed on the inside, and it's not. Huh. A little funky. Some of that rusty junk in there. Even that needle valve looks good. Might need a small O-ring on the bottom here, which I should be able to find one and put on there. We're going to take this jet off. A little bit of junk in there. We're going to spray through it and get it washed out good. Alright, the jet's pretty clean. Pretty sure I can't get that out of there. Oh, yeah, I can too. So this is your emulsion tube. There's a bunch of little holes all through this thing. You gotta make sure all those little holes are cleaned out. There's like, what is it, 2 there and 4 down here. There's some crud on that. A little bit of crud down through there. I'll give that a good spray. When you're working on carburetors, it's nice to have some of these little micro drill bits. And these are designed to work with your hands, nothing else. They're not designed to be put into a drill. But you can find the right one and make sure all these little tiny holes are cleaned out nice. That's the right one for that. You go through all those little holes and make sure they're cleaned out. And you can get those little drill bits right there at Harbor Freight. That's where I got these from. And like anything else that's small like this, you gotta be careful with them because they are fragile. They will break off easy. They're strong for what they are, but it's still, it can still break off. Don't force them in there. If it's not the right one, try the next one. All right, I think that's all of them. I can see fluid shooting out of all the little holes there. And then I blew everything out with the compressor. I can see light through all the little holes. All right, I got everything cleaned up pretty good. A little jet here is in good shape. A little tube here is in good shape. Everything's flowing good through it. I blew through here. There's a little tube in the center of that. I blew through that, and I seen stuff coming out of here when I blew through that, so I know it's clear. And I blew through here, which come up through the needle valve and vice versa, so I know all that's clear. So now we start to reassemble this thing. So I found a O-ring in my nice little Harbor Freight O-ring box that'll fit on here. Oh, not there. Fit on that jet that we took off. There's the old one. Here's the new one. Same size inside. Seems to be the same size on the outside. Might have to go with a smaller one. Let's see how that works. That ought to do it. It just about seats all the way down, just about. All right, looks pretty good. Everything is snug. You don't need to kill those either. I've had some of those on there so tight I ended up stripping the center out, and luckily I was able to get a pair of pliers on it. I'm gonna have to find a solenoid for this thing. Up in there. So for now, we are done with this until I can get a solenoid. And I'm thinking that was probably the only problem. The fuel pump seems to be pumping. I don't think it's the greatest, but it is pumping. And the fuel, it'll probably run off of that fuel fine, but it'd be nice to get it out of there and try to get as much fresh in there as you can. It was almost, the needle was showing empty when it was pouring fuel in it, but I got a feeling there was maybe a quart or something left in there and just started getting gooey, and then jumped the good fuel on top of that and just started dissolving everything, and now it's just kind of mixed in with the fuel. So we're going to get a fuel solenoid and get this carburetor back in there, and we'll see what happens. Hopefully you like the content. Give me a thumbs up. Subscribe. Send me a comment. Let me know what you think. And be kind and help people when you can.